You must cleanse your mind from all Kenyans, I'm talking about non-Somali Kenyans, from the fact that there are Kenyans who are Somalis. These are not people who came in like Indians and Europeans in here. These are people whose region was lumped as part of Kenya by the British. The same way the Luya are divided, the same way the Turkana are divided, the same way the Luas are divided, the same way the Maasais are divided. So for the first time, it's important, including leaders. You know, I was in Parliament, in the 7th Parliament, and as a leader, an MP who I think has since deceased, the late Kubo, Mcharo Kubo, who was a member of Parliament. And he told me one day, but yeah, that was an education. He's a very well-educated guy who got his degree those early days. He said, but you have to be grateful to this country. No, you're a refugee, and even maybe you're a member of Parliament.
Really?
You know? So the presumption that these people are coming from somewhere else and that they don't have the same rights a Luo or a Kikuyu has is one thing people need to get their minds off. You get my point? To say them and us, as if there is a Somali which is a different thing from the rest of the country. No. We might look different, and everybody looks different from the other. A Luo looks different from a Kamba and a Kikuyu and everybody else. Maybe the one thing you all share is that our hair is a bit softer than the rest of you, and that's why you talk of Nyole Laini, you know what I mean? Which is natural. I mean, there's nothing you can do about it. We didn't choose to be that. You get my point? So what basically needs to be done is, that is one point. Second thing is, you have to understand that that region has suffered oppression from independence, from pre-independence until today. The first freedom fighters were not Mau Maus. The first freedom fighters were people from the region, whose history has never been. I'll show you the links which have now been declassified by the British. We fought the British and literally pushed them out of the region. In some cases, in the most bloody way. But nobody talks about that history. Because for a long time, there was the assumption that if you have a conflict somewhere,
right,
then it becomes easier. Listen to me carefully. If you have a conflict somewhere with a section of the population and you say, these are the ones who are trying to fight us as Kenyans, Shifta, Somalis and the rest of it, it becomes easier for you to do a lot of other things. Steal the farms of the Europeans, do everything else and take it while people are looking at this. Now, Al-Shabaab are in Somalia. It's an internal Somalia thing. It has nothing to do with us. But what did we do? We committed our forces unilaterally to an independent sovereign state without seeking their permission for us to commit our forces there. Then we meddled in their own internal affairs by trying to prop up a warlord who is there using our forces. So one is that we do have, of course, a maritime dispute with Somalia, which is already in court. And if it's in court, every other avenue was done. Somalis pushed very hard for Kenya to come to the table for this thing to be settled outside the court. In the previous administration before Farmajo, Hassan Sheikh Mahmoud tried everything possible, and he was literally ignored. And like, he doesn't matter. Like, who are you? You are just some kind of piece of rubbish. Let me just finish this. Now, then they took the matter to court. Getting it out of court, they said no, we don't want to get out of the court. Okay, the whole world is looking at it and saying, look, the court is as jurisdiction. Let's see how that court. But now, let us see. Those are blocks. They're not being utilized. Somalis are not selling those blocks. They're not doing anything. Kenya is not selling. Those blocks are waiting for the determination of the court. But we can keep our relationship going. Many countries have had similar situations like that. Now, that relationship also, as it is right now, we took the warlord soldiers through our camps, military camps, with their trucks, with everything else, and took them to Mandera.
When you say warlord soldiers, are you referring to AMISOM?
I'm talking about the Ahmed, this, what do you call, the current president, regional president of Jubaland. That is tantamount to Somalia interfering in our region right now and propping up a governor in Western Kenya, for example, and saying this governor.
Honorable Maalim, you have raised very serious issues. And first of all, in 2011, when KDF went into Somalia, you were in Parliament, right?
Yes.
Did you raise any questions based on what the Kenyan government did going into Somalia? To
be honest with you, I initially was very hesitant to involve our forces inside there, but I wanted us to create support forces from there, train them, use them to flush out Al-Shabaab. But at the same time, do that in conjunction with the center in Mogadishu. The center in Mogadishu was much weaker than what it is today. But when we were moving in, that was done unilaterally. We didn't know about it. It's only the intelligence. And let me just finish that. When we moved in, as is the tradition all over the world, when your soldiers are inside another country, whether it's the American soldiers that went into Iraq, whether they went into whatever it is, before they go into that country, there's always a certain section of the political class that opposes it. But once they go in there, you can only stand by your soldiers. Now that time I said, if you look at the Hansard, let us have, we have already entered the place, let's have an exit strategy. Let us have an implementation strategy. Let's finish this job soon as possible and get out of that place as soon as possible.
I mean,
so the idea was that we go in, we flush out the Al-Shabaab. They were running helter-skelter. If only we kept on chasing them, there would not be Al-Shabaab in Jubaland today. But what we did is that we just went slowly. We went all the way to Kismayu and we stayed put there.
Honorable Maalim,
until today, 11 years later.